Metroid Dread is one of the biggest releases of the year, and there's tons of players that have been anticipating this game for what feels like forever. But there's also a lot of new players and new Switchcomers that have never played a Metroid title, and in today's video, we're going to figure out if Metroid Dread is still worth buying if you're a newbie. Gabe is here with us to answer some very important questions, and man, you have marathoned your way through the entire thing.
Zach, this is one of those rare occasions where I beat a game and then I instantly start a new save file because you do unlock a hard mode after, and I wanted to see exactly what that was like. I love this game so much.
Yeah, so this is not a review, it is a spoiler-free questionnaire where we're going to kind of go through and figure out if this one is still worth your money. If you don't have a lot of familiarity with the franchise, or if you're on the fence about Metroid Dread, if you've read some of the reviews and see it's very difficult or very old school, or if you just got a brand new Switch OLED and you're entering the Nintendo world for the first time, this video will be perfect for you. So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Smash that like button if you enjoy the video. Let me know what you think about Metroid Dread in the comments down below. And Gabe, let's get right into it, all right? The very first question I want to ask you is Metroid Dread fun moment to moment?
Boy, dude, you already know this because I saw you streaming this morning and you told me you were going to stream for an hour. I looked at my watch. I'm lying, I don't have a watch, but I looked at my phone and it was over an hour. I said, oh, this guy can't stop. He went through the same thing I did. You can't put this thing down because you just want to keep going. You keep telling yourself that next room, I just want to get to like that next area, and then you find something cool, you find a new ability, or you have a cool little set piece moment. You're like, okay, I'm gonna get to the next one. I can't put this game down.
It's like that moment when you first learn to ride a bike and it just feels so smooth and so easy and so fun. That is controlling Metroid Dread. It plays like butter. It plays like perfection. I think that the claims that this is the best controlling 2D game ever are pretty valid.
The 60 frames per second is like such an important part when it comes to that. Like the responsiveness is there. Samus controls exactly how you expect Samus to control, especially if you have familiarity with these games before, because you remember like playing this before for the most part, obviously not the exact game, but very similar styled games, and they're never this fluid. So the 60 frames helps this so much.
Yeah, it's a huge step up even from Samus Returns by the same team back on the 3DS. But let's move to question 2, which is, if I like Mario and Zelda on Switch, will I like Metroid? Because plenty of players have probably played Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild, or those are very good candidates for your first Switch game. If they like those types of titles, do you think that they can kind of filter over and become a Metroid franchise fan?
I feel like there's a pretty good parallel between this and Breath of the Wild. That same discoverability is there. The same lack of hand-holding is there. Even though Breath of the Wild holds your hand a little bit more, not a lot, but there's smaller guides to what exactly you're doing. In Metroid Dread, you're kind of just thrown in there. And the main objective is clearly, hey, go somewhere you haven't gone before. If you haven't gone to this area of the map and you can, you should probably go that way. But I love that about it, that it doesn't hold your hand. Now, how does this compare to Mario, specifically Odyssey? Like, not at all. They're, water and oil. Like, it completely different. They don't mix whatsoever. But I think if you are a fan of those two franchises from Nintendo, then that means you like great game design, and this has that. So, maybe.
Yeah. If I've never played any of the Metroids, right? Most people that are super hyped for Dread have been there, from the beginning or from Super Metroid or at least Metroid Fusion, but there's a lot of younger Switch owners. There's a lot of Switch owners that haven't been a part of the Nintendo ecosystem. So will this still be cool to me if I have no familiarity with Samus Aran?
I think so. The game does a good job of explaining the story of the previous games in the beginning. Now, some of the terminology might be a little bit much. You start hearing about these like races of aliens, all these like random planets, all that stuff happened in the previous 4 mainline 2D Metroid games. So it helps, but I fully feel that you could just jump in this for the first time and you could figure out what's going on. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, it's not like there's, a 5,000-page lore Bible that you need to memorize, and I think Samus is cool enough of a character that instantly likable, instantly really like flashy and fun in terms of the abilities and the way she moves. And if you know Smash Bros, then you know Samus from there, so you might have some familiarity even if you don't really know it. Now, if I just got a Switch, I just bought my OLED, it just came in the mail, thank goodness I got a pre-order and didn't pay scalper price, should I consider Metroid Dread right away? Like, is it a early day one Switch game purchase, or is it something that maybe I should, kind of put on a wish list down the line?
If my best friend is picking up a Switch for the first time and he's asking me, or he or she is asking me what first 3 games should I get, Metroid is now number 2 for me.
Ooh, Breath of the Wild then Metroid?
Yeah, it's Breath of the Wild then Metroid. That's just how it goes, man. This is completely usurped Odyssey for me, because
wow,
we have those Mario-like experiences decently often, right? Whether it be remakes of previous games and stuff like that. Like, everyone knows what a Mario game plays like because chances are you've played one. This series didn't historically sell so well, so there's a good chance that maybe you haven't experienced something like this. And you know this about me, and maybe some of the people that are a little bit more hardcore fans of what we've done for a long time knows about me, but I love the Metroidvania genre.
Yeah.
And the genre has the name of the game in there for a reason.
It is the originator. And I have to agree with you, because while like Breath of the Wild is very evolutionary and many Switch games kind of take things in a new direction, this feels like quintessential Nintendo, where they're like, look, we can do gameplay, hands on the controller experience better than anybody. Just trust us and go along for the ride. And I kind of love that as almost like a yin-yang to something like Breath of the Wild, which is doing things in a totally different way for Zelda. This is just honoring Metroid and perfecting it, and I think there's something special about that.
I have a question. Look, I already told you that's number 2 for me. Now you haven't played. You've played a lot today, more than I thought you would. Honestly,
yeah.
I thought you were just gonna stream it and that would be it. Like, do you have any gauge of where this would fall for you as far as recommending the games to someone who maybe hasn't owned a Switch before?
I think it's up there. I think the only difficult thing for me is that there are so many Metroidvanias on the platform. I need to see this one through to make sure that it is like king of the hill. Is this the cream of the absolute crop when I'm done with it? So far, making a great, like, insane first impression, but I don't want to jump the gun too early. Let's jump the gun on kind of a silly question. If I'm coming to Metroid for like the story, the world, the dialogue, if I'm one of those players, I like RPGs, I like, my emotional endings, I like my characters, is this something I should still buy?
If you like other stuff. I wouldn't say that Metroid Dread is very big on any of that necessarily. There is story, and I don't know, there's like a couple characters, but
best voiceover of the year. I think the AI is the coolest voice of 2021.
I believe the AI's name is Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very, very good voice, but there's lore there if you play the other games, I guess. Yeah. You'll know a little bit more about what's going on, some of the alien races that you are encountering. Again, you know more about them, but in this in particular, like, there's not like a bunch of notes you're finding, or isn't, really dialogue heavy cutscenes, like none of that. No, I wouldn't say that this is that type of game.
I will say it is more cinematic than I expected, though. Like, there's a lot of nice moments, a lot more like cuts to, kind of a behind the shoulder perspective, or more of a 3D perspective that do up sort of the cinematic ante of the game. This is an interesting one. If I don't really like a lot of the indie Metroidvanias, games like Hollow Knight, Ori and the Blind Forest, Axiom Verge, should I still try this since this is like the OG and this is Nintendo, or should I just pass?
First of all, you shouldn't speak to me. We can't be friends if you don't like Ori. No, I'm joking, but look, those games got their backbone, like their DNA is Metroid,
right?
In a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways, those games change things up a fair bit. But I think if you just don't like Metroidvanias, no, you're probably not gonna like Metroid. Again, it's in the name. Although, like, if you hate that genre for whatever reason, like if you don't like exploring and having to like backtrack a little bit to go to previous previously unattainable areas. Like if that just doesn't click with you, then this game probably won't click with you.
I will say there's a little bit of a chase mentality in this game that does make things a little faster paced, a little more sporadic, a little more action oriented, a little more exciting. Those Emmy robots, they are bloodthirsty, and I do really enjoy that aspect. Is Metroid Dread good, Gabe, for small on the go play sessions, or is this something that you want to like really sit down and put a couple hours into?
It's good for small on the go sessions if you can put it down. Like if you have like that willpower, I guess.
That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, the game gives you plentiful save spots, so you're able to just do like a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, at least the recent entries in this series, I'm saying, like, dude, the last Metroid game we got was a remake of Metroid 2. Like, there has been no real recent,
right?
But it's been handheld for a long time. Fusion, Zero Mission, like all these, newer, even though they're not, Samus Adventures, they are on a handheld. So I think just by design, they do lend themselves to on-the-go gameplay. They do.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those games also where since there isn't a ton of dialogue, isn't a ton of story, it's okay to like play 5 minutes, drop it, come back. You're not going to feel out of place or like you missed out. I've heard that Metroid Dread is pretty hard, and I want to know if I should be worried about the difficulty. Like, is it a game that is beatable? And I want you to answer this without, trying to throw any journalist under the bus.
Look, I actually thought about this a lot because I was going to make a video about this very subject for my channel. Here be Gabe. Ha, quick plug. Go check me out. But I think as a 31-year-old man that grew up playing these things, I have a different perspective than many others.
Yeah.
Right? And not even the age necessarily means that you can do it. That's not what I'm saying. Because there's a lot of people that are our age and older that, maybe they didn't play a ton of games growing up and they're just now getting into the medium. I fully think that the game is beatable by anyone. I don't think this is Demon Souls. No. If you practice enough, you will this is all pattern based. That's all this is. If you recognize the patterns, you can figure it out. The thing that I maybe worry more about for a newbie is, and I hope that that's not like a bad word. I don't mean it in a negative connotation. The exploration, the navigation, because you can get like slightly lost.
Yeah.
If you're not used to like following one of these like more traditional maps, like you pull up a map and that thing can be overbearing because there's just so many icons all over the place. And you're like, hey, like I already went that way, but I'm pretty sure I can't go that way anymore. But it really seems like maybe that's the way. Like you can confuse yourself. But I do think that this is fully beatable. If you give it the time, it will like 100% will reward you with the pleasure of getting through it.
I don't think it's Dark Souls. I do think there are some sections that are difficult. I think there's some timing-based stuff that will require, some level of dexterity. I think the Emmy robots do require you to be quick on your toes, and the boss battles are challenging. But I think it's more difficult in comparison to sort of the rest of Nintendo's library. And if you are coming from like Animal Crossing, this is a massive step up. But like Gabe said, you can do it. You're just going to have to be patient and know that like there is very little pathing in this game. There's no like quest markers. It is even less than like a Hollow Knight or an Ori. There's not just like, there's really nothing. You really kind of have to just fiddle your way around, figure out where to go. And I agree that the difficulty does also come from just that explorative quandary of where should Samus go next. We're going to go next to the most divisive question on the entire list. Does Metroid Dread feel like it's worth the full $60 price point? We know that a lot has been made of this. It's a 2D Metroidvania game. Full price, did it earn it?
Let me ask you this. Can you think of a lot of games that are maybe like 10 hours that are still just full priced and they're only story based and not multiplayer? I can think of a bunch. So if they can get away with it, I don't see why Metroid can't.
Yeah.
It's 2D, yes. But you also got to remember, Nintendo values their IP like nobody else values their IP. They weren't going to give us this at a discount. We got lucky and they give us WarioWare cheaper. Like, certain things I'm sure Nintendo will like budge on.
Right.
Metroid is just it's not going to be one of those things, especially with Metroid Prime 4 coming up. They don't want to devalue the brand in any way. They don't want them, by them I mean the audience, to think that, Metroid is a budget franchise in any way. Like that just wasn't going to happen. I am not angry at the $60 price point. The way I look at it, if you take 10 hours to beat it, you're paying $6 an hour.
Yeah.
Movies cost more than that. I think it's fine.
And, you know, you could say the same of many Nintendo genres, honestly. Like, okay, there's platformers that are $15 on Steam that are really good, but Mario will always be $60. And you're not just paying for the character, though. Like, I do feel like there's a level of polish, level of quality that maybe does go above some of these other titles. You know, people are going to have their favorites, whether they're more of an Ori fan or they're more of a Castlevania fan or more of a Metroid fan, and that's fine. But, yeah, like, indie games have raised in quality so much lately, it's hard for really any game to be like, why is this one 70 and this one's 20? But when you're buying a game from a platform holder, a major publisher, a Nintendo franchise, it's going to be 60. And the 2D thing to me is the one that, like, it's a game, right? There's some $60 games that are just like run and gun, and to some that might be boring, to some 2D might be boring, but I think they do enough to justify it. Anyways, final question here. If you could describe Metroid Dread in 3 words to tell somebody all the game has to offer and sum it up in a nice little bow, what would they be?
1, I think it's a very rewarding. That's probably like the first word that I want to throw out there, because while the difficulty is there, you feel like a king every time that you get through one of those like later boss fights, because they do get a little bit trickier going forward. Also very quick.
Yes.
I love the fluidity of the gameplay. It's quite great, and it's adventurous. You just kind of got to go figure it out and maybe let go of that safety net that you usually experience in a lot of other games where there's a waypoint. Just go here, go here, go here.
Right.
No, go figure it out on your own. You'll be fine. There'll be some weird enemies along the way. You'll get chased by an Emmy or two, but at the end of the day, you'll be rewarded for it.
Yeah, I'm only a couple hours in, but my 3 would be crisp. It just controls perfectly. Momentous. I feel like it just like you were saying, one more room, and even the chase sequences, you're just bouncing and bounding around using the abilities. It has just such a great inertia to it. And then non-linear, because even for myself, you're so used to just like following the check mark that there's times where I'm like, wait, it really wants me to go back to the first area? Like, I'm supposed to do that? That doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't do that. And oh yes, you absolutely should. But that's part of what makes this game special. And I think those 10 questions show that Metroid Dread is incredibly special. This is now risen the ranks as one of, according to Gabe, the top 2 Switch games, and definitely one of the best Switch games, I think, by most accounts. And it seems like whether you're a new player or a longtime fan, it's still worth the buy. So a big SwitchForce seal of approval and a giant golden Gabe mustache on Metroid Dread.
Wait, what? No, the game's fantastic. If you're on the fence about it, check it out. One more thing I want to say, just in case anyone's watching that was watching your stream, because I felt the type of when everybody said, hey, I was kind of looking forward to this, but you know, it looks too hard, or the chases look too intense. They're intense, but in a good way. You're not gonna be scared. Like you're not gonna.
It's a way to add cinematic moments and sort of AAA flair to a 2D Metroidvania. I feel like the Emmy robots so far, to me, are the star of the show. That intensity, that tension, I love it. And it's like Gabe said, it's not too much. It's just tuned to perfection, like the whole rest of the game.
I still encourage people to give it a try. Like, at the end of the day, it's still like a Nintendo game.
Yes.
And they cater to a wide variety of people, and that includes younger people. So this is a game for pretty much anyone. Don't be intimidated by the Emmy. Just go get chased a few times. You'll be fine. All
right, Gabe, let me go play some more Metroid Dread. You guys have a fantastic day. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Hit that like button on your way out. Big thanks to Gabe for joining us, and big thanks to Nintendo for finally coming back to Metroid and making magic happen once again. Until next time, everybody, SwitchForce out.